Welcome to Worm Impeachment, episode 77. We're live from the nation's capital today on the eve of a historic event. That's the impeachment of the 45th President of the United States. It will take place tomorrow. We're trying to actually sort out the time. There's a little discussion whether the vote's actually going to be tomorrow night, where the president's in Battle Creek, Michigan, at his rally, or actually be pushed over to Thursday. We're going to discuss this further in our special edition tonight. We're on the John Frederick Radio Network, the Salem Broadcast Radio Network throughout the nation, on americasvoice.news throughout the world, and on Newsmax TV, the fastest growing cable news operation in the country, now bypassing or passing 70 million homes. Chris Ruddy and the team. Raheem Kassam from UKIP fame and Brexit is my wingman, along with Jason Miller, the chief communications strategist of Trump 2016 and the transition, where he's communications director. We're honored to be joined today by John Moran, one of the earliest Trump supporters, a major industrialist from the state of Pennsylvania, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. He's going to be here to discuss the impact of impeachment in Pennsylvania and the opportunity cost on industry. And we have sitting in tonight a dear close friend and colleague, Lian Chan Han, who's the leader of the democracy movement in China and a Tiananmen Square veteran. We're going to have Senator Rand Paul on momentarily from the nation's capital. While we are waiting for Senator Paul, I want to discuss this afternoon's missive, the blowtorch that President Trump sent to Nancy Pelosi. This is this letter. It's 6 pages. It's been called everything from poetic and brilliant to a unhinged screed.
And that was just in here.
Okay, let's Raheem, tee it up for the audience at home, maybe coming home, driving, hasn't seen what's happened. I want everybody to pitch in. I know Moran, who's a Trumpanista, right, is all set to go because he loves this letter. Tell us, what did the president do? Why did he do it?
At about 3 o'clock this afternoon, the White House published a 6-page letter from the President of the United States.
Single-spaced. I mean, no, it's a lengthy document.
To the Honorable Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House of Representatives, with a big old signature from the President at the end of it. Now, this letter goes through pretty much all of the arguments we've heard against impeachment so far. The partisan impeachment crusade, cheapening the importance of impeachment, the abuse of power by the Democrats, talks about Joe Biden using the $1 billion loan guarantee in Ukraine. President Trump defends the good phone call, says Zelensky said he didn't feel any pressure. It goes on, and it is pretty comprehensive.
Oh, this is a guy who doesn't want a trial. Are you kidding me? I mean, come on. He's going to sit there and listen to Adam Schiff for 4 days? The conversation this morning, we had Matt Gaetz here about a short trial versus real trial. And he's going to sit there and listen to Schiff. He hasn't even been impeached. On the eve of it, he's sending a shot across the bow.
And he goes right at Speaker Pelosi and says, "Don't say that you're praying for me, because you're not." I mean, he goes right. He
got personal in the first paragraph, second paragraph.
He goes right at Rashida Tlaib for her impeach the blankety blank, right. Al Green, kind of the whole group of Democrats who are.
But he calls them out, and he goes through a reasoned though intense defense of his actions. This is not, I'm looking for acquittal. This is, it was a perfect call. My actions were perfect. I'm looking for exoneration. Look, so Nancy, don't even do it.
I think he's seeing the polling that's coming out, and we've seen the polling that came out today from the Dirty 30 districts of Democrats. This
is the campaign poll done by Tony Fabrizi and the crew over there.
Yep, and it's a pretty stark warning to the Democrats over this stuff.
Yep.
But I think he's seen that, and he's gone, look, actually, people out there, independents, we discussed it on the show last night, independents don't like this, the Republican base doesn't like this, a significant number of Democrats don't like the impeachment process, and so he's gone all guns blazing.
But the day before, when they're rolling, why do you send that?
It was sent at an exact amount of time where President Trump would have seen that the day's events on television were being captured and the audience was being captivated or attempted to be captivated by the arguments surrounding impeachment. This is coming up, the whole build-up. We're going to have the vote tomorrow, and obviously the news networks, they are going to produce more often than not Democrat talking points. So boom, he drops this letter, and suddenly the CNN chyrons, the MSNBC chyrons, everyone's talking about what's in the letter, the substance of the letter, which are President Trump's defenses of himself, of the call, and his attacks on Rashida Tlaib, on Joe Biden, on Al Green, on
John Moran, do you
all
think
these
this?
guys.
You think you're a big donor to President Trump? You're an early supporter of President Trump. You have, for the last 3 years, been as hardcore as you can get against the Republican establishment in Pennsylvania as a Trump guy. Do you like this letter?
I actually love the letter. This is what I love about the president. And I think this is what his supporters love about him. You know, he's a fighter. He doesn't give up. He doesn't take the easy way out. And he's not afraid to defend himself. Could you imagine any other president that we've had in recent memory that would have the ability to stand up and write a letter like that, not care about what the establishment, the Washington insiders think? No, this president is doing what's
So you think
right.
that's on brand? That's Trump.
Absolutely. I would expect nothing less, honestly.
Did her teeth move?
Oh, they do all the time.
You stop. Will you stop?
Did you not watch? Hold on. Did you not watch the Jake Tapper town hall? Anyways, okay.
No.
Let's get away from. But look, in addition to the style.
Did you
aspect-
like the shot that he took about stop saying you're praying for me?
Yes, because it's ridiculous. I mean, it's look. Obviously, you can never get inside someone's head.
John
but
and I are Roman Catholics, so we empathize with her.
Man, I just don't see that being
Actually,
sincere.
I don't have very much pity on her at all. I mean, I look at her hiding behind her Catholicism when she supports abortion openly, and a number of other issues that are directly against what the church teaches. So
John's not a defender of her prayers.
I mean, look,
No,
my take,
Okay, from a communication
Yes.
strategist point of view, did he time? Is this classic Trump? I'm going to change the news cycle. I don't like
Yes.
the way this is going. There's too many Democratic talking points. All they're doing is talking about the Rules Committee. All they're teeing it up. They're making it the biggest deal in human history.
There's no Democrats coming out saying they're going to oppose it yet. And looking at that, he's got to change the news cycle, right?
Yeah, we've had no voice today. It's the Democrats been driving the news all day, and so in addition to the obviously we talked about some of the more fun points, a little bit of the candy, so to speak. There's a lot of substance. So, for example, he talks about the nullification project that the Democrats have had since the beginning. He talks about, and here's a direct quote: "You are turning a policy disagreement between two branches of government into an impeachable offense." Steve, wherever you heard that one before.
Wow.
I mean, he goes through and breaks down, he goes through the unconstitutionality of the entire push. And Steve, right now we have Senator Rand Paul. Why don't you go, Senator, are you on the line?
Senator Paul, thank you very much for joining us. Really honored.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
So, talk to us on the eve of this impeachment. Where do you think we stand today, particularly in thinking about where it goes next as far as a trial goes? You're going to be one of the jurors, but you've also got very strong opinions about how this should play out. What do you think?
You know, I think it's going to end up partisan. Started out partisan, it's going to end up partisan. In the House, not one Republican voted to start the inquiry. Not one Republican is going to vote for impeachment. A handful of Democrats are going to vote against impeachment in the House. When it comes over, I know of no Republican right now who will vote for impeachment, and I think there's a good chance 2 Democrats vote against impeachment. And I think what they're doing is criminalizing policy differences. So, for example, they're saying there was an abuse of power in withholding aid, and that was a risk to our national security. Well, my opinion is similar to the president's opinion that foreign aid actually doesn't always help our national security. Sometimes it actually hurts our national security, and that other people should pay more. How many times have you heard the president say, Europeans should pay more, our NATO allies should pay more, South Korea should pay more? This is part of what he ran on. This is part of who he is. And the fact that he believes that, and Democrats and actually some establishment Republicans don't believe that, is that somehow something you can impeach him over? I actually think that the more we spend on foreign aid, the more we borrow it from China, the more we go in debt, actually the weaker we become in defending our national security. And that's a political point that people can disagree with, but it's not something you impeach someone over.
Senator, you've been so strong on communicating the need to bring the whistleblower forward as a witness in this trial. How important is it to you that we bring, obviously, this whistleblower forward, but then also some other people as well?
Well, here's the point is that most whistleblowers' names are known, and they come forward and they point out abuses. Edward Snowden's one of the most famous whistleblowers, and the Democrats who all love this new whistleblower all have complete disdain for Edward Snowden. And so they're inconsistent in this. The law doesn't protect anonymity. The law protects you from being fired or prosecuted in some kind of court. I'm for those protections. In fact, I would think we would expand those protections. But I'm not for saying you get to anonymously accuse somebody. it's a long tradition. It's in the Sixth Amendment to our Constitution that you get to confront your accusers, but it probably goes back farther than that. Most of our traditions in our Bill of Rights actually predate our country and go back into British common law and criminal law. So I think the president does have the rights, and I was on the floor of the Senate, about a month ago, and I was saying, the president has this right to confront his accusers, and the Democrat senator rose up and just said it was laughable that I was saying that impeachment would be subject to the Sixth Amendment, and it said, well, you may laugh, but I don't think it's laughable to think that the president gets at least the same amount of rights that the rest of us get. And so I think they've bitten off more than they can chew on this thing. I think really in the end people are seeing the unfairness of the House proceeding where the president didn't get to call any witnesses. So if we get to the point where we have witnesses, absolutely, I will defend the president's right to call.
When you say get to the, you say get to the
right to call Hunter Biden, Joe Biden.
Well, that's the point, Senator. This is a big debate over the last couple of days. We had Matt Gaetz in here earlier. This thing about a truncated acquittal when you get the votes, take the putt and move on to the next hole, versus a long trial, call witnesses. Let's get to the bottom of the national security apparatus. Let's get to the bottom of what the whistleblower was, all the problems with the FISA, which you've been the leader on. Let's do it on a global stage to show that the American people can handle this. Our institutions can handle this. We're strong. Strong people do this. Where do you come down? Are you for a long trial?
Well, if I thought we were actually going to get to the bottom of FISA and reform FISA, I'd be for it. But that's not going to happen with an impeachment trial. So I look at it this way. I'm of two minds. If there is a trial, absolutely, I'll fight tooth and nail with anybody to make sure the president gets to call his witnesses. But if the president is told after hearing opening arguments that there's not enough evidence to go to a trial and people proceed to the final vote, nobody's going to vote against going to the final vote, and even the president will begrudgingly say, yes, it's time to be done with this, and then it becomes a political question that we debate. I think that the mistake of the Horowitz report, which I'm going to talk to Horowitz tomorrow in our committee, is that he's like for some tinkering around the edges with some FISA reforms. My point is this: FISA, which is foreign intelligence surveillance, should never be used on Americans. It's not intended for Americans. It has no constitutional protections, and so it's a mistake ever to get FISA involved in a campaign. How could you possibly get involved with a campaign without entering into bias or avoiding all bias? So foreign intelligence methods and means in less than constitutional orders should never be used on Americans, and particularly never used on Americans during campaign season.
And Senator, we saw today the court come out and chastise the FBI pretty strongly on these FISA abuses. What can the Senate do about this? And is there anything in particular you're already planning on introducing or going after to change this during this particular Congress?
About a year ago, there was a vote over in the House, and it was pretty close. It was like 204, maybe 215, 220 against. And this was an amendment that would have said that if you want to search the FISA database, this foreign intelligence database for an American, that you have to go to a regular judge, a public judge, and get a warrant, and then the person you're trying to search would get to protest and get to try to quash the warrant. What this does is it gives some protection, because right now, if we have a biased FBI agent, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, this Kleinsmith guy, if one of them is going to search you because you're a supporter of the president, wouldn't we need some procedural ways to try to stop them? And so this needs to happen, because people say, oh, well, I've not done anything wrong, I don't have anything to fear. The FISA database involves people in it. Imagine who's caught up in this. Anyone who's ever talked to someone overseas could be in this, because this thing is, it hops all around. One time, I think there was a month where we soaked up every phone call from Italy. So we're talking about like millions and millions of phone calls. So trapped in there are people who have relatives in Italy, reporters who might call a reporter in Italy, a politician who might call another politician. The president himself, his phone calls are caught up in all of this. And so we should not be looking at these phone calls unless we go to a real judge, which means a judge not in a secret court, and that you get a real warrant saying someone's committed a crime. But what they did to Carter Page, I think, is an abomination, and not only should they apologize, I think some people may go to jail over this. I think this Kleinsmith, who doctored an email to obscure the fact that all of these contacts that Carter Page was happening, he was reporting to the CIA. He's talking to one part of the government, and they're lying and obscuring that to try to get warrants to surveil him when he's actually being a good citizen, a patriot, and trying to inform them about these contacts of people who've been talking to him.
Senator, I know we just have you for a few more seconds here. You had a very lively interview with Jake Tapper on CNN this weekend, which, when I say lively, we loved it. You basically put Jake in his place. And so, Senator Paul doing Senator Paul things here. But you made the point that the entire impeachment witch hunt is very partisan and will dumb down and destroy the country. Elaborate that a little bit of what you meant with the longer-term ramifications, and then we know you have to go.
If you've watched Latin America anytime in the last 100 years, what they do is when a president leaves office, they convict him of something either in office or after office, and the president goes to jail. This happens every time. Both parties do it to each other, and it's just tit for tat. If we become a society that uses impeachment like a political bludgeon, that we're going to basically use impeachment just because we don't like the other guy, and we're going to use impeachment instead of elections, that's what we're going to become. We're going to become Latin America. And you think the quality of candidates may go down when people are threatened with this sort of abuse of power? When Adam Schiff took the subpoena power and went after individual congressman records, Devin Nunes' records, and a reporter's records, my goodness, you talk about abuse of power. I think what Adam Schiff did, anything they've accused the president of, pales in comparison to the abuse of power that Adam Schiff did in using subpoena power to basically get private phone records from a reporter and a fellow congressman. I've been saying they should bring up a vote of censure at the same time as the impeachment vote and try to force a vote on censure of Adam Schiff.
Senator Paul, very powerful as always. Thank you so much for your work. We're really hopeful that you're going to get something done here on the FISA reform. Glad to have you in the Senate fighting for President Trump and the people of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thanks, guys.
I want to go to about the thing about dumbing down, the last thing about Latin America. Is this why more businessmen, people like yourselves, don't go into elective office right now? Because they've seen what's happened to Trump?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a gauntlet if you look at it. I mean, just look at what the president has faced. I mean, the battle over opening up his private life with his tax returns, the attacks on his family that are nonstop. He could have very easily just maintained a strong business, support the community through his employment of the people that work for him, and pay his taxes. But, he chose to take the difficult road and come out and try to save this country. You go back and you look at Trump in the early days, 30 years ago, he was talking about the same problems,
Absolutely.
the same things. And so finally, he decided that he couldn't take any more.
We have breaking news. Sorry, John, to step on you here. Jared Golden of Maine's 2nd Congressional District.
Maine 2, baby.
Maine 2. This
Jason
is
Miller and Stephen K. Bannon spent a lot of time in Maine 2.
somebody who won in 2018, took a Republican seat. Jared Golden is saying he will vote in favor of one of 2 articles of impeachment. He will vote for the abuse of power, but not for the obstruction of Congress.
Isn't that what Michigan said the other day? She said the exact opposite. She was going to vote for obstruction of Congress, but she didn't say anything about the abuse charge.
Yeah, and I think you're going to see a lot more of these. I think you're going to see a lot more of these, Steve. Sorry, I have momentary technical difficulties, but that's good. I think you're going to see more of these as the vote approaches. And again, the reason why Speaker Pelosi is doing this drip, drip, drip of vulnerable Democrats coming out and saying something, I think they don't know what the real answer is with a lot of these people. Or even when they say, I'm going to be for it, they can be for one, they can be for
Does
two.
one get you off the hook with in Michigan you try to do obstruction of Congress, and in Maine you do abuse? You think that that hacks it?
Steve, what did Mr. Miyagi say in the movie? What happens to the person in the middle? They get squished like bug.
That's a good one. I would have gone with Thatcher standing in the middle of the road and get hit by both sides. But hey, each to their own.
Let's go back to Senator Rand Paul for a second. Did he tell us the way this thing's going to roll? They're going to do their opening arguments. They're going to say they don't really have a case. Take a vote, move on.
Yeah, and I mean Senator Paul is
and he's the one that's the fire breather on FISA. If there was a fire breather that would agree with Matt Gaetz that I want a trial, I want to get the whistleblower up there, I want to get them all up there, would be Rand Paul.
Yeah, and Senator Paul has been licking his chops to get, especially the whistleblower, and he's been so singularly focused on the whistleblower. Now he brought up Biden, both Bidens,
Yep.
but he really wants to get the whistleblower. But I think he basically just laid it out for us. They're going to do the opening statements, and it sounds like they're going to then push right away to try to have this vote and get this thing wrapped up.
You're saying no Congressman Schiff reading a curated version of 7,000 pages, taking Raheem's notes and 7,000 pages of testimony, so he won't be voicing Ambassador Taylor. They'll do it. They'll cut it off before then.
I think so. I mean, look, Senator Paul is someone who, again, if we have a good ally and a good champion who's trying to get the whistleblower and others in there, it's him, and I think we got a pretty
And he's the one that's
indication.
identified most of the issues. He's been fighting, and his father fought this whole FISA thing, the Patriot Act. He fought this for many, many decades. If there was a guy that had a dog in this fight, it's Rand Paul.
Yeah, and I mean, you can make the case that Senator Paul was ahead of his time when it came to championing this issue, the need for FISA reform. And, you know, he just arrived in the Senate a little bit too late for when a lot of these rules came on the books.
We got to jump to a commercial real quickly. The people in Pennsylvania, and you have kind of major industrial businesses and natural gas, logistics. So there's a lot of working class people that work as your employees. When the Democrats make the argument that the reason that we're forcing through this thing over the Christmas holidays is because the president's a clear and present danger. He is a clear and present danger to do this again, whatever they're accusing of him in Ukraine. Do you think that washes with just independents and even Democrats, some of them that are working class people, that it's got to happen right now, it must happen this second, it must happen right before Christmas?
Absolutely not. It's very political. The people in Pennsylvania. I live in central Pennsylvania, which is right in the middle of the T of Pennsylvania, which is a very conservative area, and everyone in that area is just they're just realizing how political this is, and that the think that for 1 second that they think the president has to be
they're not buying as a clear and present danger.
No, not at all.
Raheem, how do people get, I want to take a second and reset this so people know how to get the information. The news site that you're running with the team here is absolutely incredible. Your breaking news, we're going to talk about some news you broke this afternoon, not just on the letter, but also about the polling. We're going to get into all that. How can where can people go?
Well, warroom.org is your place to go for everything impeachment related, not just for what's going on the show and all the clips you might miss if you're missing us at any point in time, but also breaking news throughout the day, the polling, as Steve alluded to, which we'll get into the next segment, the letter that came out of the White House today. Warroom.org had it up first. And we're very grateful for our links from the Bongino report and the Citizen Free Press and all the guys that are linking into the site right now. They know it's the place to go. Make sure you bookmark it. There's a newsletter you can sign up to there as well.
Okay, War Room Impeachment, episode 77, live from Capitol Hill on the John Fredericks Radio Network, Salem Broadcast Radio Network, America's Voice.News, and Newsmax TV, now in 70 million homes. We're going to take a short commercial break. We'll return with Hakeem Kassam, Jason Miller, Stephen K. Bannon, and John Moran in just a moment.
War Room Impeachment. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back to War Room Impeachment, 17 December, year of our Lord 2019, episode 77. It's a special live from Capitol Hill, a dreary day on the eve of a historic event tomorrow, the impeachment of a sitting president, only the third time in the history of the Republic, the 45th President of the United States, will be impeached on 2 charges, abuse of power and obstruction of Congress. You're listening to the John Fredericks Radio Network, Salem Radio Network nationwide, America's Voice.News, and, of course, Newsmax TV. We've had some breaking news this afternoon. The president's campaign did some polling on what we call the Dirty 30. Those 31 districts that voted for Obama twice, voted for President Trump, and then swung back to the Democrats, took the House of Representatives, and is the reason and the sole reason he's being impeached, because they control the House. John McLaughlin, who we've had on the show many times, the lead pollster for the president and one of the best strategists around, now joins us, and I want to toss this to Raheem to walk through. John, thank you very much for coming on the show today.
It's a pleasure to be here.
John, Raheem, thank you again for being on War Room Impeachment at late notice. But this story, I think, is a big one, and may have been passed over in the hubbub over the president's letter to Speaker Pelosi this afternoon. The campaign manager for the Trump 2020 campaign, Brad Parscale, tweeting the numbers from a poll you guys did, I guess, over the last week or so. these numbers in the dirty 30 district, this is where Trump won in 2016 and where congressional incumbents are Democrats. They don't portray a particularly good picture. You guys have headlined this: Democrats in Trump's 16 districts risk walking Pelosi's plank if they support impeachment. Can you walk us through the top line numbers on this and also explain to us the methodology? Because I saw that you've been quite generous in terms of the demographic representation here as far as, more likely Democrat voters are concerned.
Right. Well, this survey was Tony Fabrizio's survey, and he's the lead pollster for the campaign. I've worked for the president since the primaries in 2016 with Steve. But I'll tell you that what we did was Tony did 900 likely voters, and we had previously done certain districts. Like our firm, McLaughlin Associates, did New York 22, where Brindisi sits. And Tony's firm had done Oklahoma 5, where Congresswoman Horn sits, and South Carolina 1, where Joe Cunningham sits. And what we've found is that these Democrats are really putting themselves at risk. And I think their polls are coming back, too, because prior to last week, it was 31 Democrats in 31 districts that Trump won. But one of them has now switched from South Jersey because he must have gotten his poll back. But in the meantime, you've got a situation here where even though it was demographically set up to represent these battleground congressional districts, what you've got is 47% of the voters in these districts say that they want a new person. Only 36% think their Democratic congressman deserves re-election. They oppose impeachment 53 to 43. And if their member of Congress votes for this, 4 to 3, they're less likely to vote for them. And the killer thing is, like 2/3 say it's time, they agree, it's time to move past this and stop solving problems that the country is facing. 62-36. They say it's a waste of time and tax dollars. 61-38. And they basically want the Republicans and the Democrats to work together to lower prescription drug prices rather than do impeachment. 68-25. They'd rather have Congress pass new trade deals to save jobs. 66-29. They would rather that Americans fix our crumbling infrastructure. 66-27. Impeachment's a loser for the Democrats. And what's been going on, there's an impeachment backfire going on right now around the country. Because remember when we entered this process after the whistleblower, when the president was ahead the week before, this is back in September, the president was ahead in the polls. He was leading all the Democrats. His job approval was over 50% in the good polls of likely voters. All of a sudden, this whistleblower appears, and impeachment takes over. This is all a political charade. In late October, we took a national survey, and we said, is this political to stop the president from getting reelected, or is this a valid legal process? 52-36, the majority of American voters said it's political. And at the time, 59% of all voters thought this was a waste of time and it was going nowhere. And Nancy Pelosi has pursued this. She's drilling it home with, and by the way, they held weeks of hearings and people tuned it out. It was boring. They proved nothing. All they proved that the president is innocent of all their charges. The president's letter today is exactly accurate. They are the ones violating the Constitution. They are the ones abusing power. And the Senate is going to kill this.
We're talking with John McLaughlin, one of the campaign pollsters for the President of the United States. John, you're effectively saying that this is erasing the incumbency factor for these Democrats. That's a pretty extraordinary thing to do. That's one of the things you typically hang on to, and we've seen breaking news in the last couple of minutes that Jared Golden in Maine's 2nd District is saying that he's going to vote for one article of impeachment on the abuse of power, but not on the obstruction of Congress, thinking that maybe he can have it both ways. These statistics don't prove that you can have it both ways, do they?
No, and the fact of the matter is, it's really going nowhere. I mean, it's been, the other part is it's been a sham process, as you and Steve have well exposed. I mean, there's no due process. The Republicans have no legitimate rights to call witnesses. This is an unprecedented type of an impeachment, unlike what the Republicans did with the Democrats when Clinton was up for impeachment, unlike what they did when Richard Nixon was up for impeachment. There's no fairness here. This was some sort of star show trial, the kind that you would see in the Soviet Union, being run by Nancy Pelosi. My only explanation is she must figure that if she gets Donald Trump, she'll get Mike Pence next, and then she'd become the president. I mean, this is bizarre.
President Pelosi.
This is the lead article on our
fact-
site right now, by the way.
John, this is Jason Miller.
doesn't scare.
Want to dive into a development from this week. So we've seen a number of polls coming out nationally. Yesterday, I think there were several. We even saw the Real Clear Politics folks and their rolling average now say that impeachment is upside down, that it's underwater. Fox News' poll isn't saying that, though. What's going on with the Fox News polling? Why is it such an outlier to all the other trends that you're seeing in your polls, as well as USA Today, even CNN?
All these polls skew Democrat. Even the ones trending our way now, think about it. CNN, ABC, Quinnipiac, Fox News, they don't use voter lists. They randomly dial the phone numbers, and then they basically skew it where the Republicans are less than, say, 30% of the sample. Like I know in ABC, CNN, and Quinnipiac that came out today, the Republicans were 26, 27, 29% respectively. They're polluted with non-Republican voters. You remember on Election Day, Jason, 33%, pardon me, were Republican voters. There were 37% Democrats. These polls are driving the Republicans out of the polls so that they can sell this narrative. But now, even in their skewed polls, the Republicans are coming up. USA Today, their poll today, had President Trump leading on the ballot against the top 5 Democrats. I mean, he's beating Mike Bloomberg, who's spending like $1 billion, and he's beating him like 43-34. I mean, the whole impeachment process is backfiring for the Democrats. And last week, what was great was they announced they're going to pass the trade deals, and they were going to pass some other things the president wanted. They keep doing impeachment. The Democrats are going to have to pass the entire Trump agenda to cover their butts. So
wow,
next November, yeah.
And so, John, so I want to stick with that poll for just a moment here. Of the competitors, had Joe Biden, who's universally known, I mean, has near 100% name ID, only at 41% against the president. Do you think Joe Biden has some real weaknesses there as a general election candidate?
I always thought he was, even though he was the early front runner, I always thought he was terribly weak, and his best day would be the first day he announced, because he really is too old, and he doesn't really have it. And the thing that's happened with impeachment is he's collateral damage. I mean, he's done exactly what they're accusing Trump of doing. He basically, his son is now, everybody knows his son was making millions off this deal with Burisma and the Chinese, and as you all have reported. And Biden bragged on videotape that the campaign had to make an ad to get on, saying that he'd gotten the Ukrainian prosecutor fired because the guy was going after his son's firm. And, if the Democrats want to be fair, they should have let the Republicans call witnesses, called Vice President Biden, call his son Hunter, call the whistleblower.
Do you believe, John, before we let you go, do you believe actually a long trial to exonerate President Trump is smarter than just, do the opening statements, see if you got the votes, vote for acquittal, move on, and get back to the business of the country?
I think at the beginning I thought Senator McConnell should have killed this thing in the beginning. He said, if you're not going to play by the historical rules and precedent, we're going to kill this. We don't want to hear it. Don't bother. Don't bring it. He didn't do that. Now it's come so far that I think that there's a lot of questions that have been raised that, for the good of the country, we need answers. The Republicans have not been able to call the witnesses. The Republicans have not gotten to, going back to the dossier that started all the Mueller report and everything, we need to find out how that came about.
Even as a pollster, you're the analyst. As a pollster, you're comfortable with the fact of not mitigate our downside risk, but throw the ball downfield. Let's get it all out there, and that's what fully lances the ball and gets out in front of the American people.
What I'm afraid of is, Steve, you and I were in a campaign that was spied on. Who authorized that spying? They had a FISA warrant on the server. There is something here about, something sacred about our democracy, and when the incumbent party is able to use the FBI and the CIA that they spy on a political campaign, and by the way, maybe you're right, it's better off that the Attorney General Barr and the U.S. attorneys find the answers to that than to have public hearings on this. But somehow that needs to be followed up and pursued, because that's the kind of thing when we were young, when we watched the Watergate hearings, that's the kind of stuff they threw at Nixon. they really did it. And you know they did it, and we got to find out answers. Who knew about it? When did they know about it? And how did this ever happen?
Exoneration and vindication versus acquittal. John McLaughlin, one of the president's senior pollsters. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today about the new polling you just put out.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity.
This is why the president is in good hands. John McLaughlin is one of the best. I want to pivot to our guest, John Moran, for a second. Do you believe? Are you a McLaughlin guy? Do you want vindication? You want a trial? You want it all get out, or do you like? You kind of agree with Rand Paul? A couple of opening statements? If you got the votes, take a vote and let's move on.
I think it wouldn't hurt to bring a couple witnesses in. I think it is important to find out. I mean, when you think about
a couple of witnesses, or the whole thing?
I think the whole thing, Steve.
The whole thing. You want a whole trial?
Yes, because I think number one.
You think that's the Trump movement's mindset?
I think it is, because if you go back,
you've been there from the beginning. This is what Trump wants. You think?
I think so, because if you go back to the beginning of the roots of this thing, you have a Lieutenant Colonel Villman, and he's listening to the call, and he gets concerned because the president goes off of the interagency consensus, and he then goes and he gets into
you're the first guy to bring that up on the show a couple of weeks ago. Interagency consensus, right?
Yes, I mean this. I really believe in my heart that this is really an impeachment by the bureaucracy more than the Democratic Party. I think the Democratic Party is more of a pawn in this. They are the party of big government.
So you want to take on the apparatus. You want to take. I don't call it the deep state. You would. You want to take on the deep state. Let me ask you another question. You're an industrialist. You run one of the biggest companies, most powerful companies in Pennsylvania. You see the polling of what McLaughlin's talking about. 66-29 on getting back to the business at hand of the nation. 66-27 on getting focused on trade deals, infrastructure. Nancy Pelosi just said on national TV that letter is very sick.
Yes.
The Democrats have avoided now for a year the business of the nation, why they've investigated, why they've impeached, and now forcing a constitutional crisis over the Christmas holidays. Who's sick here?
Well, she actually said it was ridiculous and sick. And what I think is ridiculous and sick is that she allows us to continue in a trade deal that cost the American people 5 million jobs.
NAFTA?
Yes, because NAFTA is still technically in effect. So, 5 million American jobs, manufacturing jobs lost. For every manufacturing job, 3 to 4 other jobs are in support of those jobs. So you can make an argument that NAFTA cost us 20 million American jobs, which in turn you can make an argument for is why we hear so much about socialism in this can't.
Do you think you make the argument that she sat on her hands for a year and allowed the president to negotiate?
No doubt. It was completely.
Did you
political.
ever think the president would be able to renegotiate USMCA in 2 years when people said it would take 5 to renegotiate? Do you think he would do it?
I fully believed he would do it. Yes. I had never had a doubt in my mind. It was a horrible deal for us.
Why is Pat the biggest guy slowing it down right now? Correct me if I'm wrong. In the Senate is Pat Toomey, your senator. What's the story with Pennsylvania? I thought you guys had your act together. I thought you wanted jobs.
Well,
you come down and talk. I know you guys. No, seriously, how's Pat Toomey? Any investment banker or something?
Well, yes. Pat Toomey was the founder of Club for Growth. Club for Growth spent $25 million in the Florida primaries against Trump.
Ooh, somebody's got a long memory.
Yes, so he's a free trader, globalist mentality.
Moran's one of those guys going to have Irish Alzheimer's. Only remembers the grudges.
No grudge.
So hold it. So you're saying that, and what do working class people and voters in Pennsylvania, not just the Trump movement, but as you guys that work your thing, they're independents and Democrats, do they hold Nancy Pelosi responsible for not getting this trade deal approved? Are they uncertain about it, or do they like the fact that she's pushing forward in this because he's a clear and present danger?
No, people are seeing through this thing. It's 100% political.
So you believe the polling?
Absolutely, yeah.
This plays naturally to where you think people are. Because I'm pretty blown away. When you get 66-27, these are not. This nation's very divided on every topic except for China, right? Only China brings us together. Other than that, and these numbers are blowout numbers. I've never seen any number in a Trump poll related to anything Trump's ever done. 66-29, 66-27, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's trade, whether it's getting on the business of the people, whether it's doing prescription drugs. This shows to me the undercard here shows that there's a tectonic plate shift in people becoming aware of what's been run on them.
Look, Nancy Pelosi has just sent a letter about tomorrow's tomorrow's procedures.
Trump drew it out of her.
That she calls prayerful. And let me.
She did not.
Yeah,
she did.
did.
She's trolling.
And
I love
let
it.
me
I love
refer
it.
you back to President Trump's
They're
letter
so
this
good. This is the battle.
afternoon.
This is the battle of the Titans
President
here.
Trump wrote to Nancy Pelosi this afternoon. He said, "Even worse than offending the founding fathers, you are offending Americans of faith by continually saying, 'I pray for the president,' when you know this statement is not true, unless it is meant in a negative sense. It is a terrible thing that you are doing, but you will have to live with it, not I." So Nancy Pelosi has come out with her own letters, but to her own colleagues, she's called the president's letter sick. She says, "I've seen the essence of it, and it's really sick." And of course, CNN is now fact-checking the president's letter. The first fact that they have pulled out is that Trump claimed the so-called whistleblower disappeared because they got caught and their report was a fraud. CNN facts first. There is no evidence the whistleblower has disappeared. Whoa.
Oh no, that's
Brian Stelter.
But I thought we didn't know who the whistleblower was. Then how would we know?
How do you know he's disappeared?
How would we know he disappeared?
Whoa, whoa.
I mean, so it sounds to me like CNN just outed the whistleblower. I mean, if I were Mark Zaid, I'd be blowing up. CNN
Disneyland,
right now.
Disneyland again. I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there. I didn't
He's
say
busy.
that. I didn't say, hold it. Let's talk about her letter. What did she actually have to say? She actually said. She actually did. You're not pulling my chain. She actually said
Not yet,
prayerful.
can you, Jane? She did say it was a prayerful moment. She's basically referring to her colleagues. She's saying, "Look, we're embarking on something very serious here. This is us going up there to defend democracy. I salute your moral courage, allegiance to our founders, hearts full of love for America." It's
ridiculous. That's adding to the
exactly.
ridiculous.
That's an alligator clap.
It's the alligator clap.
The alligator clap. You think people can see through this when they look at what President Trump's doing with Pelosi? Because this is what it is. It's Trump versus Pelosi now, right?
Right.
He defeated Clinton. Now it's Trump versus Pelosi. Do you think people see through this?
Absolutely. I mean, the president is getting things done. Look at the economy, right? That's the judge. People are going to go into the voting box, and they're going to always vote with what's on their mind, what's happening in the economy. The Democrat Congress has absolutely done nothing for the American people. They've concentrated on this impeachment. They should be thinking about how to fix health care. They should be thinking about how we get an infrastructure bill, how we can put more Americans to work in good-paying manufacturing jobs by getting some of these trade agreements fixed.
In these polls today, it shows that President Trump is beats all 5 of the leading Democratic candidates, okay, one-on-one. If he doesn't win, whoever wins Pennsylvania is the next president of the United States. In Pennsylvania today, I know the Democrat candidates are a little bit in the witness protection program because nobody knows what they're saying. Do you believe this polls? Do you think in Pennsylvania he can beat all 5? And you just lost the Senate race, you lost by 1.2 million, and the governorship by 1 million. Do you think that the president can beat all 5 candidates?
Well, unfortunately, yes. When you say we lost the Senate race and we lost the governor's race by a big margin, there was a lot of momentum for those races to happen.
You lost 7 or 9 House seats in Pennsylvania. Was a disaster in 18.
It was a disaster, yes. But I still believe that that Trump is singular above those races. The message that he brings to the people resonate with the people in Pennsylvania, and I do believe he will in Pennsylvania.
He can take all 5 guys.
I do believe so.
Just a real quick question. Connor Lamb, for all of the hand-wringing and, I'm a different kind of Democrat, I'm a new Democrat, then comes out and just, hey, I'm on board with the Pelosi train. Is Connor Lamb, is he done after this term? Do you think we're going to be able to get him?
I feel he would be, yes. I feel that.
Because you're saying the vote for impeachment is signing his political death warrant.
I believe so.
You can't, because this is the most important vote he'll ever take as a congressman.
I believe so, yes.
Just in our last couple of minutes here, I want to bring it back to John and I's agreement over this letter from today, right? Because there are going to be people out there who are like, this is unpresidential. Like John Avlon, his very, very robust attack against the letter on CNN when it first came out. He said this is unprecedented.
Mr. Margaret Hoover?
He says you can't sit in the same seat that Washington sat in and say things like this. I just want to recall for people that, the founders and throughout America's history, there has been very, very robust names called and accusations hurled. Bastard brat of a Scotch peddler, drunken
I know that. But what John Avlon, look, I was kidding about John. He's a solid guy. But in a very known to the Rudy crowd, he was on the campaigns with Jason many times. But what he's saying on the eve of impeachment, with the gravitas this is, that it should be a higher level, it should be a higher standard and not troll him, Raheem? Is that not what Avlon's saying?
No, because if he was saying that, he wouldn't have invoked. He said the president is wont to use these words. He's a regular at using terminology like this and phraseology like this. It wasn't to do with the time. It was just to do with his disagreement that the president should speak like this at all. And let me tell you something: if Jefferson can call Adams hermaphroditical, then President Trump can write this letter.
Only an Englishman could tell us that.
Oh,
Steve, coming up tomorrow morning, Big League episode 78. We have Julian Tett, the Ed Board chair of the Financial Times. Wait, Ed Board chair of the Financial Times coming to War Room
In the
Impeachment?
War Room, baby.
This is huge. And former Arizona Governor Jan Brewer. This is huge tomorrow morning.
Okay, we had John Moran in here talking about China. We're going to get to that another day. He's an expert on what China's done to this country. Didn't have enough time today with breaking news. This is War Room Impeachment, episode 77. Raheem Kassam, Jason Miller. Go to warroom.org. John Moran from the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Until tomorrow with Jillian Tett and Governor Jan Brewer. Tomorrow, 9 a.m.